What's up, everybody? Bob Chick back with another edition of the Voice of Bodybuilding. Joined once again by my co-host, Hall of Famer, and all-around really, really good guy, Sugar Shawn Ray. What's up, buddy?
It's just big greens, man. Chocolate flavor, your favorite.
You know, funny you mention that, brother, because I too have gotten my big box of big greens. And you know what? It's big greens, for those who don't know, is a superfood. I'm a big fan of superfoods. I don't want to turn this into a full blown out commercial, but
Yeah.
I tell you what, of all the supplements, and listen, there's 10 million supplements out there. They're all, some of them are good, some of them are indifferent, some of them you can only take so many pills in a day.
Yeah.
But superfood I like because it's an actual, it takes the place of, right, like a meal
Yes.
replacement. I put it in that same category. So
Yeah, I mean, I like my greens, don't get me wrong. Spinach, asparagus, and broccoli. But when I can drink it and it tastes like chocolate, I can do that every single day, not every once in a while.
you just like
So,
chocolate, let's face it. But they sent a nice box here. They got a whole bunch of things. Got new hats, and they got a big thing on our man Hoop, strongest man in the
yeah,
world.
you
He's
got to
an
give him some
amazing guy.
props.
So appreciate that from Jimmy George, the crew over at Mutant. That said,
Yep.
Sean, we got a whole lot to get to. We've been off for a
My
few weeks
coffee.
because of travel considerations for both of us. So we're
Yeah.
always playing catch up, but that's okay. So we're going to hopscotch all over the place, Sean, with just different things that have occurred, have come up, things in the news. We've had some Olympia qualifications that have gone on as we get through the season. We're already into June, bro. We got
Yeah, it goes
July, August,
fast.
and September. That's it.
It's good. Listen, it's all downhill from now. I mean, no breaks, really. I remember when I used to compete. I know it's a long time ago, but when I did, June marked the calendar for me. Typically, right after the New York Night of Champions back in the day, for those of
Right.
you who remember, when that show was over, you had a nice little breather. Then you had the holiday, which was, we celebrate Memorial Day. And then it's the beginning of summer. And for me, June, July, and August, those were the final 12 weeks of prep because back when I competed, the Olympia was in September.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
only a month after, but we have 11 pro divisions when it comes to the Olympia. It is grown immensely. When I was doing it, we had two. Eventually, it graduated. We added women's fitness, then it was women's figure, then it was, you know, all these other elements that would make the weekend a lot longer. And of course, bodybuilding still anchored it as the number one seed on the list. But you got to remember, Bob, I think we're living in some strange times. While there's
You
more
think?
money being there's more money being thrown around, and rightfully so. I fought for that my entire career, even when I was on the stage. It really is a winner take all. When it comes to the Olympia, I think the top three are rightfully getting compensated by today's economy, but there's a lot of other people that aren't. They're just kind of pace cars on a pace track. But the bodybuilding side, I noticed over the weekend that Lee Haney had made some observations. I'm not even calling it critical. I'm not
Right.
calling it complaints. He made some observations that I made 30 years ago. And it's good to hear Lee finally find his voice. Not everybody's going to want to hear it because I think today some of the young guys think the older guys are out of touch. But it's amazing when you travel the world and you talk to the fans and you got boots on the ground and all these people are longing for yesterday's look. Oh, back in the day, you guys look like so much this, so much harder, so much more professional. These aren't compliments that we're seeking. They're coming to us from people that actually witnessed what's possible. Lee Haney was talking about the standing relaxed pose, which is
Right.
nowhere close to standing relaxed. When I think of standing relaxed, an imagery comes to my mind. I see Steve Reeves, I see Frank Zane, I see Lee Labrada, and I see Bob Paris, I see Barry DeMay. I actually see Lee Haney to a certain degree, even though he was on the big side of things. The standing relaxed pose is no longer the standing relaxed pose. Let's just get the elephant out of the room. Lee Haney's is bang on with regards to that. I don't think that pose represents what it was supposed to. It's the Harley Davidson look. You're right. The blowfish pose, okay? Because you got to have the Harley Davidson high bars, and there are no. I mean, I think if you're judging that show and you got a judge that has the microphone, you have to tell these guys to actually relax, right?
Yeah.
Because it's called the standing relaxed pose, and there's nothing relaxed about it. Am I complaining? No, I'm making observations like everyone else. Was Lee Haney complaining? He's making an observation. This is supposed to be one of the 8 mandatory poses, standing relaxed, right? There's nothing relaxed about it. As evolution happens, we have to adjust with the evolution. We're going in the wrong direction with that. Big Steve, whoever's at the mic, Tyler, Jim Mannion, make the mandate that if these guys don't tone it down,
Yeah.
you don't need to see that pose. I don't need to see it. And even from the back, they're out here. From the side, the arms are exaggerated. Every once in a while, you hear the judge say, relax a little bit, put your toes together, bring your elbows down. This needs to be reeled in, because what's happening is these young guys are watching the leaders in the sport. If the leaders aren't told how to do it, shown, maybe clinics, maybe before the show happens, right there in front of all the guys getting ready to take the stage. This is how it's supposed to look. This is what you need to do. It's already out of hand.
Well, there's a two-part to this. There's a whole bunch of parts to this, but two I could think of right off the bat. The judge is number one. You're right. Listen, call these guys out. I have no problem with that, because you're supposed to be assessing the physique in the relaxed pose. You're supposed to be assessing the symmetry and the proportion and the shape of the body, right? That was round one. It still is round one. Even though you don't get a particular score for it, you are being judged on it. So you can't, it's very hard to judge a physique when your arms are up in the air, looking like you're, on a Harley or whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's one problem. Two, the trainers, okay? Posing coaches, trainers, whatever you want to call them. If they're teaching this to their people and they're following it, but they're not getting called out on it, who's to blame? It's the chicken and the egg argument. So everybody has to kind of get together, but I can't help but think, Shawn, that with the advent of Classic, that it took out some of these type of items from Open. And I think that's a big critical mistake. And I think this is what Lee was alluding to. Listen, Lee does not like certain types of physiques. He's been very adamant about that. He's entitled to his opinion like we are and anybody else. That said, you can't just throw away the ideals of bodybuilding and what it was founded on just because we have another division that seems to like those things more. So I say you got to bring those things back. It's got to be worth something, whether it's scored or not in terms of an actual score. It can still be assessed. So I think those ideals need to come back, because those fundamentals cannot be ignored. I don't care what division it's in, or exactly what Lee said, we're going to have a reset, because you're going to have a bigger problem down the road.
Well, the trickle-down effect is, as a promoter in the NPC, the amateurs are copying the pros. So when you got a guy in the Olympia standing up there like a blowfish on a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, to where his elbows are up, he's sucked in the air in his chest, and his legs are bowed out, kind of like a bow-legged bodybuilder, there is no symmetry. What are we judging? I mean, he doesn't know. He doesn't know because he's not being reprimanded. The judge, when this comes out, the guy needs to hear number 5, put your arms down by your side. I remember Wayne D'Amelio used to do that. He was adamant. Several head judges I know, like Big Steve, used to pay attention to that. Now they're letting these guys slide, so the amateurs are copying the pros, and it just looks weird. And I can't explain it to somebody coming up to me why they stand like that. Did you ever stand like this? Even in the men's physique, did you ever
No.
stand like this, where your elbows are parallel to your shoulders and you can get away with it? Like no one's wheeling you in.
So somebody put out a post. I got to give them credit. I didn't catch exactly who it was. It was just like a random thing on Instagram. But it had a picture of Bob Paris, and it had a quote from me on there from years ago. And I was saying, when I was teaching posing in one of my DVDs back with bodybuilding.com, I said I always use something I called the rule of thumb, which means that as you're standing in a relaxed position, your thumbs, if you put your thumbs out, you should be able to hit the sides of your thighs. Yeah. And that was what I always use as a gauge. And if you look at all the old pics of all the old champs, all those names you mentioned, all of them are within reason with that to various degrees. Okay, everybody's a little bit different. But nobody had their arms out like this, out to the side. So that, I think, should come back. And again, hats off to whoever put that post out. If I can find that, we'll post it up. And again, here's the funny part, Shawn. That was said 20 years ago. That's how long it's been that I actually said that quote and talking about posing. But you don't remember 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Big Steve or anybody else saying, no elbows, guys, no elbows.
Yeah.
Now, why would he
say
that? Because your elbows shouldn't be out so far that they're hitting the guy next to you. Yeah. So listen, they call out people all the time for stuff on stage. And I say they need to take it one step further and call people out. Now, guys, hands at your sides, okay? Once again, if you can't use that rule of thumb thing, that's cool. It's out there, right? Use it. If you can't hit your body with your thumb, you're so far out that you cannot assess your physique properly. And those things do need to be assessed, because let's face it, some of the physiques that we're seeing out there, not to mention any names, are not what I would say are ideal, but they've become commonplace and accepted and open because we have Classic.
Yeah, and Classic is really separating itself from bodybuilding because all you have to do is look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Classic numbers are way up for a reason, and thank God that they brought it back. Look, there's a reason why we create these new divisions. Some good, some bad, but the fit model was created why? They want to get back to what bikini used to look like.
Right.
What Ashley Cotwalser used to look like. So we're
10
going,
years ago.
yeah. So we have to go back because again, Lee Haney's not that far off when he says we've lost our way. That's not a knock on any individual. We're getting caught up, and no one's complaining, and no one's reeling these guys in. And the next thing you know, we're winding up at a place where we're not interested. It's kind of boring, and we do have to, conversation and dialogue and opinions. They all lead to one thing. That's change for the betterment of the sport. This isn't Lee Haney whining. Every time I said something, it was a complaint. Shawn's whining again.
Right.
I'm making observations. You don't have to value my opinion, but just as much as I have to listen to yours, you have to listen to mine. You have to listen to Haney's. No one's right and no one's wrong. That's what social media is for. I remember back in the day when you had an opinion, you had to get a pen and paper, and you had to write a letter to the editor saying whatever it was you wanted to say about whatever it is you were thinking of, or to whoever athlete. They sent it to the magazine. The magazine deciphered whether or not it's going to get to the athlete of your choice. There's no guarantee you're going to reach me because you're sending it to Flex Magazine. But if it did wind up on my desk, I had the foresight that, look, I need to answer each and every one of these letters because they're taking the time to reach me. I remember dreaming of the day I had fan mail. So I can't ignore the congratulations, the encouragement, the criticism. And if I saw something that was negative or critical, I gave them the satisfaction of a reply, whether I agreed with them or not. These bodybuilders like Lee Haney complaining, observing, chiming in, they are no different than anyone else that goes to social media and makes a complaint, an observation, or a statement, or even an assessment. So I didn't like the negative criticism. I think I saw Martin Fitzwater say something. Does Lee Haney even go to shows? I mean, we got to be mindful of how this sport was built. Lee Haney is right there on Mount Rushmore. Does he go to shows? He's been a contest promoter ever since he retired, and he won every contest all the way up the ladder from teen nationals to junior nationals to nationals to universe to Olympia. Be careful when you start criticizing somebody like that because that's where the wisdom is, and he's speaking from a place of experience.
Yeah, I saw that quote from Martin, and I got to be honest. First of all, that was very insulting to Lee Haney. This guy isn't just anybody. He's an 8-time, the winningest bodybuilder, tied with Ronnie, right? Arguably the greatest Olympian of all time. First of all, secondly, yeah, he does go to shows. He was at last year's Olympia that you were there, Martin, in 4th place. Okay, so he is very much in tune to what's going on today. He's not some old codger that's in a cave somewhere and he's oblivious to what's going on. Number 3. Listen, you don't have to be at a show to see the physiques that are out there. You can see that online. You can see pictures. You can see video. You don't have to be there to see the type of physiques that are being rewarded. Okay. Now, in the interest of fairness, I will say this, being fair to the judges themselves. Yes, you can only judge on what's there in front of you. So you sometimes, in the absence of a better solution, a problem is your answer. Okay, and that's a problem that we have as an entity. Because we flooded the ranks, unfortunately, with people that, in my opinion, got no business being there. And that's a sign of the time, Shawn. And that's not, again, against the judges who were there at a show. Their job is to assess who gets on the stage. I think we need to take a look back a little bit. I think we need to rewind it. And I think what Lee was trying to say is by the reset comment is, listen, we've done phenomenally as a entity, as a bodybuilding group. Money's bigger than ever, lots of opportunity, lots of good stuff going on, lots of positive things. By the same token, I've had a problem with years, as you do also, with people turning pro a little bit too quickly and a little bit too fast. Some of these people need to get put back in the oven to continue to bake because they ain't done. And we know that for 2 reasons. One, we can count literally on one hand the amount of superstars that have come out in the last 5, 6, 7 years. 2, most people statistically who get their pro card, men and women, do not compete as an IFBB professional. That's a fact. We turn hundreds of people pro. We don't see competitions with 50 people in a class, 30, 40, maybe you might get as many 40 like in a men's physique. Rarely, again, by the numbers, you should have a pro show that comes out, Shawn, with 72 people in the show. Where you go, what the hell? Because
they get their pro card at the end of the road for a lot of them.
Correct. And it's 2 things, right? Either The Masters Pro card, which again, I was never in favor of them competing in Open. I think it should be a Masters Pro card to compete in Masters competitions. I got no issue with that. But you're right, they're at the end of their game. And then you've got people that aren't even really at the beginning of their game that are getting pro cards because, again, they're allowed through the turnstile just a little bit too quick. I think business is good. I get the business thing. We're both businessmen. But I think you got to dial that back maybe just a hair to start getting a little better quality that's up there so that the judges do have better selection of who to pick from. You know, if you've got five blocky guys out there, well, a blocky guy's going to win, right?
Well, I never understood the concept of giving first and second a pro card.
Yeah, I don't
Like
like that.
if you're second, you should be next in line going into next year's show. You got to wait. You got to ripen. You got to go back and fix your. There's a reason why you didn't win, and that's because you lost. And so you should not be getting rewarded to advance to the next level of competition where it's going to be even harder. So most of those guys that get their pro cards or girls that are second place, that is the end of the road because they're going to get beat by people that are seasoned, that have been there, and actually earned their right to be there by winning their pro card and also by maybe even winning the overall. We got to get back to that because right now there is no advantage of graduating two people giving out 73 pro cards in one actual competition. We have too many pro qualifiers as it is. We have too many pros as it is. So there is a saturation effect. Here we have Reagan Grimes, classic example. He comes out to California and he wins the California Pro Championships. Hangs around one more week and goes out to Toronto and he gets beat by the guy that he just beat in California.
Mm-hmm.
But when he won the California, everybody started talking about the Mr. Olympia for Reagan Grimes. Hey, you got your Olympia ticket. All right, we're going to go to the Olympia. You just won. A week later, he gets beat by the guy that just beat him. So are we still talking about Reagan being a top threat at the Mr. Olympia when he just got beat by the guy that he just beat? I mean, it's a very slippery slope. But like you said, the judges can only judge what's in front of them. And Reagan wasn't beating a bunch of Olympians. So does Reagan's camp say, hey, you know what? Now that you've gotten second, shut it down? Or do we go on to Dubai? Dubai Pro Show coming up next week. Do we send him all the way out to Dubai where he has an opportunity to not only get a paycheck, but maybe get a victory? Or do we send him on to the Mr. Olympia where there's going to be 10 Olympians and 4 Mr. Olympia champions waiting for him and feed him to the lions? You know, you got to have to calculate what's really going on. You can't only judge what's in front of you. But a guy like Reagan Grimes, 1 week they're talking about coming into the Olympia doing something, and a weekend later he's getting beat by the guy that just beat him.
Well, let me start with this. I love Reagan Grimes' physique. I like what he brings. I like the potential that he has. Very well structured, good-looking kid, tall, put together. He's not really missing anything. He's very complete.
Yeah.
But, and there's a big but, his conditioning we still have not seen close to 100%, almost like Samson a few years ago. Yeah. All the same attributes, right? Great physique, beautiful physique. Love what he brings. Just couldn't get into that higher percentile to and then he finally figured it out. Good for him, and he's our reigning Olympia champ. So I don't think it's something that he's got to majorly reinvent what he's doing. But being that he puts it out there in public, I'll put my 2 cents in. I do applaud the fact that he's competed a few times because I think the only way to go through that process is to go through the process, right? You can't simulate it. We've talked about this, Shawn. You can't go to a guest posing and pretend it's a show. We're going to go through all the same thing. It doesn't work. You have to get on stage. You got to compete as a professional on a professional show. And he's done that, and I applaud that. But we haven't seen anything different from any of the shows. He's still 90% at best. Again, he has enough attributes that it got him through. He was not standing next to top Olympians, like you said. And that's not his fault. You're there to compete against whoever you're there to compete against.
Let me ask you the $1 million question now. You're his coach. He wins California. He loses in Canada.
Right.
Now we're in June. Do you shut it down, or do you put him in another show, or do you just let him wait for the Mr. Olympia contest? And what do you think would happen if he gets the Olympia?
I got to be honest. If I was running his camp, if I'm his coach, I would literally put him in another show. Because, again, he needs the experience. He needs the reps. He needs to get out there, and he needs to go through it. And they haven't nailed it. I'm sure they'd probably be the first ones to tell you. His carving up process, there's something lost in it. It reminds me of what I was doing as an amateur and why it took me so long to turn pro. Because I followed the basic protocol of depleting as we did back then and then carving up. The carving up process never really worked for me. I always looked better depleted and before I started the process. Now, I say that because I see his Instagram. And I'll see Regan put a video out, and he's got a big bowl of something or other there that he's mastered up yeah, you know, a muffin or
Yogurt.
and pouring milk into it. I mean, I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa. Again, I don't know all the ins and outs. All I know is whatever he's doing for that process seems to be backfiring because he walks out there initially and looks good, and then he
And then you
starts to
start
lose it.
sweating.
Starts
Yeah, you
sweating, he
start
starts
sweating.
glossing over. The
So
last
here's
show,
so yeah.
he
So back to the point though.
go
Yeah,
ahead. Yeah,
he does another show. Maybe not all the way to Dubai. I think it's too far, but maybe Texas or maybe even
yeah.
Tampa. And then if he, this is the experimental time, and he's not going up against Olympians, but he does that? Do you send him to Las Vegas? Because I personally wouldn't send him to Las Vegas this year. I'd have him do these other shows where
Yeah.
he can actually compete.
I do agree with. I'm not so sure I would step on the Olympia stage because from what I'm seeing, and with all due respect to the the president that we're talking about, I don't think he can do much there. I mean, listen, he's going to be fighting for 12th or
So what does that
15th.
say about? So what does that say about Sass? Sass
Well,
won. What does it
now
say about him?
Sauce, yeah, now Sauce is
Sass.
an interesting. You got talk about two diametrical different stories, right? Now
Yeah.
Sauce, I got to give it to, right? Did reasonably well a few years ago, disappeared for 5 years, came
Yeah.
back last year, did okay, right? At third place, I believe it was at the Empro or Spain, one of
Yep.
those. Okay, and then
He's
he
a
came back
talent.
this year, and he's just been on fire in terms of competing. So I got to give him credit on one hand because it's like, look at this guy is bound and determined that he wanted to get that Olympia qualification, and good for him. And quite frankly, Shawn, honestly, I don't even if I was his coach, I'd say, you know what, go to every show you can possibly go for as long as you're healthy. You've got
Yeah.
the financial means to do so because he's collecting checks
Yeah, he
now.
reminds me of a Dexter Jackson, right? Like Dexter on a different level. Dexter can
Yeah,
do it, win, and get away with it. But Sas has nothing to lose. He's got
no,
nothing to lose.
no.
If he doesn't care so much about losing and cares and is more focused on improving and experimenting with his body to find the magic formula, there may be another title or two on the line for him that he could actually win.
Listen, why not, right? Again, there's certain instances that we are adamant about people not competing or taking the time because they are legitimate contenders for the title. It's the
Yeah.
same rationale that I had when I didn't like Samson going in the Arnold. It's like you're the current and reigning champ. Go be the current and reigning champ. Go wave a hand out there. Go kiss babies and shake hands and do what you got to do as Mr. Olympia, and then go defend your title. I thought that would have been a better approach, in my opinion. There's other people again like Derek, right? Now, Derek caught some flack. It's like, well, I don't know if that's a smart play. Well, he won the Arnold. He won Pittsburgh. The question is going to be now, Shawn, is does it come at a cost? Is that going to cost him at the Olympia? That remains to be seen. He's either going to be the smartest. It's like the coach making the fake punt call in the middle of the field,
Yeah.
right? If it
Right.
works, you're a genius, and if it don't, you're the biggest idiot on the field, and you need to be fired, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of Pete Carroll in the Super Bowl, right? When he threw the
Yeah,
interception.
there you go. But
They
so
could have
listen,
given
I
it
got
to
to
the
give it
running
up for
back.
Stosky.
They
For
could have
those
given
who
it to the running back. He could have ran it in.
Well,
What's the
again, you're either a genius or a fool. So good for Sauce.
yeah.
Like I say, I hope he keeps going. If his goal is to get to the Olympia, step on that stage one time, do the best he can do, God bless him. So that said, there's been other things that we're gonna move around here a little bit, but the Legion show came and went, and Tonio Burton showed back up. Did very good last year. I think I could be wrong. I think he was 7th or 8th last year at the Olympia.
I don't know why I thought he won that before.
I'm not sure what he won to qualify. I know he won like the Indy Pro or one of those that we were at
Okay.
a couple of years ago. But
Yeah.
now Tonio is an interesting guy. I saw the pics. He's got a good physique. He gets, I don't know whether it's from his camp or other people, but I get a lot of Dexter Jackson comparisons, which I got to be honest, I don't really, okay, he's maybe similar structure, but I mean, I'm not seeing the Dexter Jackson analogy here.
No, he stands alone. Again, he's like Shawn Clarita 2.0, maybe a bigger
Right.
version. He looks every bit a 212 bodybuilder. I'm not sure what he competes at weight wise, but for what he brought to Reno, I agreed with the outcome. He
Yeah.
won the show.
Yeah.
Um, he's not a top tier professional. Going on the Olympia stage, it's always good to see the variety of type of physiques. And look, I'm coming from a place of trying to win, not participate. But there may be something for him on that Olympia stage to present to other promoters and other fans. Add an Olympia appearance to his resume as a pro bodybuilder. That's all we want. That's why you train. That's why you diet. That's why you compete. Not everybody can win. I think we all know that going to the Mr. Olympia. but I don't think Tonio's under any grand illusions of who he would have to go through to get into that top 5 echelon. But being on the Olympia stage is one of the feathers in the caps of a lot of bodybuilders. I don't want to take the shine off of anybody who
Sure.
says, my only goal is to get to the Olympia, because we know some people actually die trying, and it never happens. Tonio could add a nice little different alternative look on that Olympia stage. I'm sure he's pretty realistic that he would most likely be the Flavio Baccanini of the Olympia, which
Right.
is the smallest in the open lineup. I think he probably would be the smallest, but he could beat some guys like if Sauce went.
Yep.
Uh, if there were some other guys, there's some personal inner battles that I'd like to see should he take that up. But again, I don't know why he would shut it down after Reno. Why wasn't he in Canada?
That's a great question because that would have been a really good show for him to have gone in, and he would have picked up a paycheck easily there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because Sauce and Regan were both, listen, Sauce is hanging on, God bless him. It was like his 5th show, and that's very difficult to do. To hit 5 shows in a row, spanning months and months and months of staying in condition and travel and all that stuff, God bless him. Regan, again, not at his best, 85 to 90%. That's why he lost against Sauce this show, but he's already qualified, so he was in a no-lose. 2 other names that come to mind, though, Shawn, is interesting. One I'm going to have to talk you through because I know you don't even know who I'm going to be talking about. The other guy is Blessing Awadibo, who you do know. And we haven't seen Blessing in a year and a half. He took some time off to complete his physique, get a little more size. Fortunately, size was not the issue here. He was bigger than a house, but that is not the best Blessing that we've seen, and he ended up in 6th place.
Well, that's what happens when you go through these trial and error procedures. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Taking time off is not always the best medicine. Maybe now, because we're in this mental health space, some guys need to detox their brain more than their body and get away from that pressure cooker of competition. So maybe he regrouped mentally, maybe he regrouped socially and business wise. Physically, size was not something that he needed to come back with. Conditioning was always going to be his Achilles heel, and he missed it. Bad timing, bad experimentation. Maybe he tried something new, and you don't know until you're actually there, which is why, back in our day, we had the advantage of making guest appearances, and
Yeah.
then you could do your trial and error in front of a live audience and do that experimentation and get some instant feedback. But now people don't hire you to guest pose, and a lot of bodybuilders don't want to guest pose because they don't want the social media to get a hold of what you look
Right.
like pre-contest, right? So they wait until the show, and then when the show comes, you either sink or swim. He
Well,
missed
the
it
other
bad.
guy is, I'll introduce you to him. His name's Ken Ayanwu. Does that ring a bell to you?
No,
I didn't
no.
think so. So let me talk you through this one, brother, and then you'll see where I'm going with this. So I believe his name's Kennedy Anyanwu. That sounds like another Nigerian name. I tell you what, the Nigerian train has been just racking through the IFBB. These guys are coming out in full force, and they got
Sure.
some damn good physiques. He goes by the name of Colossus Ken online. Okay,
Okay.
he's a relatively new pro. I think he might even be a rookie. He's got a very good physique. He's fairly complete. Everything's kind of there. Nothing outstanding, but nothing bad either. Okay. He goes into this show and he ends up taking 5th. Now that's not really a big, title killing, thing that went on here, as that he took 5th place. The reason I bring it up is this: I saw a post that he put out, and I don't know the young man. I mean, he seems like he's good new talent. Again, don't know anything about him personally, but he put a post out that I couldn't ignore, Shawn, and it went something like this. I'm paraphrasing, of course. He felt as though he was a little bit overlooked in the first call out. I assume that means he maybe was in the second call out. This was at the Legion, if I'm not mistaken, and he wanted to thank the pay-per-view audience. Okay, follow me here. The people that were out there watching the show, because he felt like the feedback that they were going online and, hey man, where's our guy? Where's Ken? How come he thought that actually propelled him up in the judges' minds. So it's if like
Yeah.
the judges got a hold of this and they saw the outrage of the fan base or whatever asking where he was and why he wasn't higher, and he felt that is what got him into that 5th place position. So
Well, reality check. This is not American Idol. Okay. It's not happening in real time. The judges aren't there with their computer watching the live stream, reading the comments. Um, but, you got to give these athletes credit. As soon as they get off the stage, they run to the internet. They
yeah,
really care. They really care what these strangers think. They care what the fans think. They care probably what their idols think, right? I mean, different people chime in. I randomly surf the net sometimes. I chime in on a physique that I think is good. I give it the props. I tell the guy, work on your posing, work on
Sure.
your stance. And to them, it's the world. It's the world that I took the time to chime in. I mean, I just think you have to remember you're being judged by a panel of experts. And if you have a question, what do they always tell you? Send in your complaints or send in your inquiries to the federation or to the judge. Stick around after the show, talk to the judge. I'm not going to go run to the internet and see what all the followers or the haters have to say about what I just did on the stage, because I'm not performing for them, right? I got the judges in front of me. It's a competition. I think the athletes sometimes have to get out of their own way.
Well, I think
Put the
what you
phone
said
down.
initially is perfect. It's not American Idol. There is no audience vote. I mean, for him to think, and again, first of all, Ken, welcome to the IFBB Pro League.
Yes.
Secondly, I looked at the scoring, and the scoring is about as matter of fact as it gets, meaning it runs right in order, like 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. That means they had the guy like in solid, dead solid. And when you see numbers like that, that means it was solid across the board, that
Across
this
the
guy was
board.
first, this guy was second, this guy is in fifth place solid from morning until night. So, Ken, I'm here to tell you, bro, I get you. I'm glad you got a good fan base out there, but in no way, shape, or form did they have any idea of what anybody past people that were there in attendance, and they don't
Let,
really even care about, listen, you get great guys that have huge fan bases that lose shows. They're not listening to the fans, okay? There is no Instagram round that you get to use to your benefit. So I can appreciate where you're coming from, bro, and I wish you the best. Hopefully we'll see him. He reminded me a lot of Carlos, actually, in his physique, in that he's got really good proportions, nice physique, but he's very soft. He doesn't have that
well,
conditioning down.
yeah, to give relevance, I mean, the guy with the loudest applause doesn't win, right? I mean, and I can only relate it to Mike coming up. I mean, Mike Quinn used to bring the house down.
No, no.
Mike
Mike Matarazzo,
Matarazzo,
too. Yeah.
Mike Matarazzo would bring the house down. I mean, Marcus Rule would bring that.
Ooh.
All of these guys are bringing the house down for various degrees. Melvin Anthony, he can
Yeah.
perform and do his thing, and leave these guys wanting more. And if we had the audience participation, which we tried, right?
Yeah, how'd that work out?
It didn't work out very well. But at the same time, you're not judging. And as an athlete, pay attention to the things that you can control. If you're in fifth place, the fans will tell you what you want to hear. But if you really want the good feedback, once again, revert back to sticking around, wait for the judges to finish their job, show's over, talk to them personally, send them an email, get some professional opinions from some of the people you might respect. But anonymous fans are not qualified from a distance looking online at actually how good you are or you aren't. Take it for what it's worth. They're fans. I'm a fan. Sometimes I don't like the call that the referee makes in the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl, but my opinion does not affect the game. The fans' opinions do not affect the outcome.
Well, Shawn, we are on the eve of the Dubai Pro. We'll be out there in Dubai for the big event. Fanato will, of course, be out there in full force. Otter Bodai and his crew at Oxygen Gym putting on another fantastic show. They have literally doubled the money from last year. I believe it's about $500,000 across the board.
Incredible.
So good for Botter, and he continues to just bring it, to the bodybuilding community in the Middle East. All eyes are on one guy and one guy only, and that's Behruz Tabani.
The
He's
defending
the man.
champion. Yeah, he's the defending champion. If I'm not mistaken, Bob, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but does the Indy Pro also have a Pro Men's Open bodybuilding? That's in June as well.
Hang on a second. I got.
And while you're looking for that,
I don't know.
What happened to the Vancouver Pro? Did that have open bodybuilding?
Well, if you remember, that one had some problems with numbers. If I remember correctly, the last time you saw a men's open, they had like 5 guys. Speaking of which, there was only 8 guys in the Toronto Pro.
Yeah.
Men's open. Now, suffice to say, because circling back just 20 minutes ago, this is going to be a problem, and it's been noted, okay, that it's out there, that we do need to make some changes as a whole, because when you're seeing a IFBB Pro League show that's an Olympia qualifying event and you don't have 10 guys, that's a problem. There's also,
it's not the first time.
Well, there's also, listen, you need superstars in these shows. Let's face it. Problem is we only have so many of them, and there's X amount of shows.
Yeah.
I've said this before. Again, we can have many discussions about it. I would love to have a discussion with the Pro League about the scheduling and possibly maybe, consolidating some of those dates where you can go show to show to show, where you can get these superstars out. But it's so spread out that you're going to have shows that struggle to get 10 guys, which is pathetic, especially when we're giving out more pro cards than ever. And you're going to have a lot of shows that don't have any superstars, don't have any Americans, don't have recognizable names. That means some of
Especially
those
over in
guys are
Europe.
going to win, and they're going to go to the Olympia. Now, Beirut is a recognizable name, and he's been qualified twice over to go to the Olympia, where I believe, and I believe you're on the same page, he would be an instant top 5 threat, but he can't get there because of politics of the country, travel considerations, and things like that. As you know, Trump just put out a mandate on a travel ban, and Iran, unfortunately, is one of those countries. This could be catastrophic, not only for Beirut, but for Hadi Choopan as well, as they're both coming from Iran. Maybe there's a loophole that these guys can still get here. You hate to see this type of thing happen, but he could be knocking on the door of year 3 that he qualifies for the Olympia and just can't get to Vegas.
Yeah, and some guys will be licking their chops as a result of that. I mean,
Yeah.
that benefits all of his rivals in that Olympia, including Nick Walker moving up from 8th place to 7th.
What? Come on now.
But I got to tell you, none of these athletes are in control of that. So my point was, if I was Hadi Choopan back at the top of the year while these guys were all doing the Arnold Classic, I personally would have been putting this Dubai Pro Show on my radar
Yeah.
as Plan B, because I would have known and I was aware that, you know what, there may be some political unrest. And regardless
Right.
of the political unrest, I'm a former Mr. Olympia, right? And this show's in the Middle East, and I haven't competed over here in quite some time.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and compete in this show in Dubai in June. He's still got plenty of time to cruise into the Olympia because there's no Olympians competing in Dubai, right? Yeah, he does have to battle with Beirut, but why not have that battle on Middle East territory in front of the Middle East audience and give the fans a little bit of you? Hadi Choopan is like,
Yeah.
he's like Michael Jordan of basketball in bodybuilding in the Middle East.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not talking about Iran.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not talking about Iran. I'm talking about the entire Middle East. Hadi's name goes on that competitors list in Dubai. The building is not going to be big enough that they
Agreed.
have. And
Well-
Hadi Choopan would have been one of the odds-on favorites to go in there and at least get a paycheck as a professional bodybuilder, but build his fan base once again, show his hometown audience what he looks like in person, peak, battle it out with Beirut, the Battle of the Middle East, and then, gear up, get ready for the Mr. Olympia. If he doesn't get to the Olympia, at least he's got this title, the same way Derek got that Arnold Classic title, and he gave his hometown fans something they can attend, something they can witness. When is he going to have an opportunity to compete in shape in the Middle East, if not this coming next weekend? This was a missed opportunity for Hadi Choopan, because now if he can't get to Las Vegas, it's an entire year of silence. He'll have to go and compete over in, I don't know, Romania or Italy or one of those shows, 10, 15, 20,000 at best. Not a good move.
Well, he's qualified for life, so he doesn't have to worry about a qualification. So that's a
But if
given.
he can't get here, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if he can't get here, you're right. I mean, then you got to pick a different show. You got to compete somewhere at some point, right? I agree with you. The Dubai Pro would have been a great opportunity for him and his fan base, but for whatever reason, he decided against it. I did hear Nathan Dash is in it. I did see some video. He looks like Nathan. He's always comes in shape. This he's very underrated in that. This guy continues to win shows. He's got the same problem though, for whatever his reasons, be it personal or governmental. He can't seem to get over here to compete in the Olympics.
How about you forgot the word legal?
Whatever.
Legal
Listen,
issues.
I'm not here to cast stones,
I'll
my
say
friend. I'm just saying.
But you know what? I mean, this is a good show for him to go to, because now
Yeah.
All right, so you got Beirut. Who else is he dealing with? If you don't
Well,
have William Bowen,
you got,
one of those guys jumping in.
You got Nexzilla. Rubio's in there. I think he was 4th last year, and I was just with him in Italy actually for the Rimini Wellness, and he is this guy is he's a freak. I mean, when we talk about freaks, bro, he's on top of the list. I mean, he makes the freaks look like normal people. He is just huge. The muscles he has. I don't know if it's one of those myostatin weird things, but he's got muscles that I don't normally see on even pro bodybuilders. And now, whether he can bring that in shape or not, I don't know. But
well, I mean, let's be honest. The freak factor comes because of his size. You take away the size, he's no longer freaky, and he still has some issues being put together as a complete bodybuilder. He will bring the freak factor, but if he's up there with if he's up there with anybody with a physique, he's going to struggle. And his Achilles heel will be his conditioning, which I think he is very much aware of. But we need to see guys like that just to be able to see what's possible with the human body. We used to say like the women bodybuilders with muscle, like Beth Francis was a freak. But, we needed to see that in order to see what's possible with the female anatomy. And people like Kim Shizevsky and Iris Kyle, they took it one step further with better structure, better genetics, but they also packed on a crap ton of muscle. And we recognize that Bev Francis was not the only one that can do that. Victor Richards is not the only one out there with this genetic myostatin muscle stuff. Zilla's new. It's just kind of distributed differently. It's not as symmetrical. With as much muscle mass as Victor Richards used to have, he had that long waist,
Yeah.
very high lats, the
Correct. Yeah.
elephant Orville Burke type thick skin that never
Right.
could get ripped. Nexzilla has the same issues, but we're looking at him like with our jaw on the ground because we just sometimes it's hard to believe that it's possible to put that much muscle on such a small frame. He's not a big guy. I mean, if he's 5'8",
No, he's taller than
barely.
that, bro. He's
Is
my
he?
height. Like he's 5'10",
Is he?
5'11".
Oh, okay, yeah. I only saw him up close one time, but he was sitting down. But he doesn't look elongated. He just looks compact, all muscle, and actually looks smaller in stature because he has so much Bertil Fox type muscle
Yeah.
without the separation.
Well, he looks like he ate Bertil Fox and Victor Richards for lunch. But
He's 6 feet tall. I didn't know that. He didn't look that
yeah,
big.
he's not. He ain't 6 foot, but he ain't much less. I mean, like I said, I'm looking pretty eye to eye to him, and I've lost an inch or so. So he's right there. He's a big boy, but he's a little thick in the midsection. He's just built like a tank, But that's a guy I think
Super
should be
nice
making.
guy.
He should be making movies. I've heard he's doing a lot of stuff in Bollywood and stuff.
Yeah, if I was him, I'd be doing the movie thing. Because, I mean, the bodybuilding first place, he's going to have to be very selective to find the right show. And they're out there because we have so many qualified pros.
Well, listen,
There's a show out there with his name on it. He's got to be very selective.
We mentioned Sauce earlier. The M-Pro Classic, I believe, is coming up this week. I believe that's another one in Spain, if probably under Emilio, I'm guessing. But that features Sauce and Angel Calderon, actually, from 212 fame, I believe, has thrown his hat into the Open. So Angel could qualify for both if he were to pull out a win here. And that guy's got a lot of muscle packed on that frame. And good for Sauce. I believe that's will be a 6th show in a row. So if he can pull out another victory or a paycheck, good for him. But that's pretty much going to wrap up the shows that are coming up for this week. Or like I say, will we get 2 people that qualify? Will we get anybody that qualifies that can actually come? That remains to be seen. Like you said, that's a couple of spots. I hate to see it happen, but if it's a political thing and Hadi and Beirut can't get to the U.S., listen, I hate to say it, but that's just 2 spots up for everybody else, and that it sucks because you don't ever want to win or place higher, based on outside factors like that. You like to see the best of the best, but
and again, you hate to be proven wrong with your predictions. I remember someone said we were eating humble pie. Bob, were you eating humble pie?
Funny, I've been cutting down on the carbs, so no, there's no humble pie that I've been eating. But it's funny because we don't really have any horse in the race of making predictions at all, especially personally. So, and listen, we also don't control who competes. I can't express this that we haven't said this enough, Shawn. I don't know why we have to keep explaining ourselves to the people at large out there. Listen, people, we've both been doing this over 25 years. We're not doing anything now that we weren't doing 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Okay, we make predictions. We put our critique out there. We handicap events, and we do our best to make predictions based on the knowledge that we know. So if somebody doesn't show up to a competition and that other said person places higher, that's no egg on our face. Like we're not eating any pie. We're not, we're not eating crow. We're not eating anything actually.
No. And here's the thing: if you don't believe us, go Google Pro Bodybuilding Weekly Radio. Go look up MD Radio when we were doing all of our stuff. We've been around the block a time or two, but again, these predictions can go all out of whack. You know who started throwing the predictions all out of whack? Our boy the Predator, Kai Green. For 5 years into his retirement, we continued to talk about him as the X Factor because he was running over to Brazil and going down to Australia, doing the Arnold Classic, but skipping the Mr. Olympia. So we'd throw all of our predictions for the Olympia off. And then you have the factor that we don't control. Some athletes get sick. Hey, Nick Walker was supposed to be in the Olympia last year. We were talking about it until he wasn't, and it throws all the predictions off. Nick Walker's supposed to be in the Olympia this year. Well, let's see if he gets there. Guess who else is supposed to be in the Olympia? Hadi Choopan. We don't know
Right.
that he's going to be there. So predictions are like, they're talking points, but none of us are sitting here pretending to be expert predictors. Because if we were expert predictors, I'd be in Las Vegas. All right. We're talking about the talent. And most of these guys that are going to the Olympia, guess what, folks? Bob and I are actually watching them win these shows or participating in we actually go to the contests.
Yeah.
We know these athletes. We talk to them. We see them up close and personal. We interview these guys. We're going to be in Dubai when the competition is going on. Based on what we witnessed a year ago with Beirut, we were both there. We're going again this year. We're both going to be there. We feel that Beirut, it's his show to lose, unless somebody like Hadi Choopan was in it or an amazing Nathan Diasha shows up. We don't know, but on paper, it's Beirut's show to lose. That doesn't make us experts, but we're there. We're not sitting on the internet waiting for these videos to come out and then try to handicap them. It's just a strange universe that we're in. When, again, I started this off by saying the minor attacks that Lee Haney has to endure when he now finds his voice and his opinion. The idea that we need a reboot is something bad. I don't know who's offended by saying we need a reboot. Why would you get upset about us complaining about the way a person's standing on stage or someone's stomach? We got to reel these conversations in and approach it from an intelligent point of view so we can find solutions. And sometimes those solutions, they get responded to because we are complaining about some of the problems. So I'm not going to shut up anytime soon. I don't want Lee Haney to shut up anytime soon. Milos is as adamant as Milos is about certain aspects.
Right.
Sometimes he's on, but he's passionate because you and I and him, we don't want this sport to die. We really don't want it to change to something that it's not meant to be. I still love what Steve Reeves showed us and Larry Scott showed us, what Arnold brought us, what Dorian showed was possible. But I don't want to lose Francis Benfato, Lee
Right.
Labrada, Bob Paris, and Barry DeMay along the way simply because we're looking at some guy who's an anomaly and very few people can look like. What you're going to wind up with is a Mr. Olympia contest where you wind up with 7 or 8 guys. Why? Because all the other people did a mass exodus to classic physique
Right.
because that's what most people want to look like. That's why I'm surprised. I'm amazed that classic physique prize money hasn't gotten up to its participation level. Because I'll tell you, when you watch the classic physique, it takes you back to a place in time where you think, man, I remember when I wanted to look like that. When you watch open bodybuilding, you're like, man, I don't think I want to look like that.
Well, I've said it before, and I'm going to say it one more time. Hopefully, somebody's listening out there. The minute it turns into a freak show, it's over.
Yes.
Okay? Think about what I said, people. Okay? The minute it turns into a freak show, it's over. Now, the hardcore out there, again, the very loud minority, will disagree with that. It's a muscle show. People like the freaks. Well, guess what? That's not the majority of the fan base. It's not the majority of the people buying the tickets or have interest in bodybuilding. You can tell that by exactly what we've said. Classic physique and the way that it's overtaken. Classic physique is bodybuilding, everybody.
Yeah.
It's bodybuilding, okay? It's not something different. It's bodybuilding. That's what bodybuilding should be judged on. That's what the whole base is. I don't care what division it is. Every division in the sport of bodybuilding, I'm talking women and men, it should be built on the same foundation. Shape, symmetry, proportion, muscularity, conditioning. They all got value. They all got weight. But when the weight goes and those things are ignored, and you turn into a freak show, we have no better example in front of us than women's bodybuilding.
Yes, that's true.
This is exactly what happened. It got away from what it was. It was very popular. It stood on its own. It was on major TV, ESPN, magazines, sponsors, right? The Miss Olympia was on its own. And what happened? Well, long story real short, turned into a freak show. And when it turned into a freak show, guess what? Those the people that really like that kind of stuff and the hardcore and all, well, guess what? They were nowhere to be found in support of it, and it died. Okay,
Yeah,
that's what will happen to men's open. All you'll have left is classic, which is really just a reboot to bodybuilding from 30 years ago. So
yeah, that's why I think Fit Model rings a bell when you say we
Right.
want Ashley Kaltwasser when she first started out. You're going back in time. Listen, if classic physique starts getting the prize money that bodybuilding gets, there's gonna be a mass exit from the bodybuilding to classic physique. You know why? There's more longevity there. There's more longevity in classic.
For those
Breon
that
Anthony's how old? Breon's got to be 44.
Yeah. For those that think we're just dinosaurs living in the past and all that, and we like to wax on the old days, one, you're right. But past that, all you got to look at is Instagram numbers these days. I'll leave you with this. Chris Bumstead, 25 million fan base, classic physique, good looking guy, great looking physique, appeals to all anybody that's involved in bodybuilding, men and women alike, right? You got to love Chris Bumstead, not just personally, but professionally for his physique. He has more people following him than all the other top open bodybuilders combined. That's all you got to know, everybody, okay? It tells you right there who's out there, who's supporting what, and what they like to see. So, listen, if you want to just call it a freak show and judge it as such, go ahead, change the rules, make it a freak show, and see where it goes. I'm telling you right now, it would be dead within 3 years. So,
Well, let me ask you a question as a promoter. All right, Bob, I'm going to give you the opportunity not to pay me a sanction fee. I'm going to throw women's bikini your way, and I'm going to throw men's board shorts your way. Now, I'm going to give you a free division. Can I send you the bodybuilding, or would you like the classic physique?
right?
That's all. That's all you need to know. You know
I
why?
think,
Because more people, participatory sport, classic physique. Um, the bodybuilders, even if you have a free sanction fee, you may wind up with 8 guys, right?
well,
You may
well,
wind up with not enough guys participating. I have a
listen,
show in Hawaii, and I feel very hesitant because I just don't know that the bodybuilders will fly across the Pacific Ocean. Meanwhile, you have shows in Romania and Spain and in different areas. It is a gamble, and I would love to bring men's professional bodybuilding back to the Hawaiian Islands. The problem is, I am very hesitant because I don't know what time of year I could actually pull that off. And that's where, when you talk about reboot and scheduling, um, as a promoter, I would love to bring professional men's bodybuilding there. Where do I fit in on the calendar? A week after the Mr. Olympia? I mean, is it possible?
well, listen, adding classic in was probably the best and the worst thing that we've done for the sport. The best in terms of popularity, people love it. Obviously, the Chris Bumstead factor. And what you saw it take a whole lot of people from open bodybuilding and they shifted into classic because even the athletes like that type of physique better. What the worst thing it did was it made open the redheaded stepchild of the divisions. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the big void was created. It's like, okay, so we're looking for shape, symmetry, proportion, beauty of the physique, the posing, and all that stuff in classic. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's great. So what are we looking for in open?
Yeah. So I brought Danny Hester, the original class physique winner of that division,
Danny.
to guest pose in Hawaii. You know what they said after that? They said, "Can you get Breon Ansley, classic physique winner twice?" I
Right.
brought Breon Ansley. You know what I didn't hear from the bodybuilders I wanted to bring out there? Can you come out to Hawaii? They didn't want to come because they didn't want to have to diet down to guest pose. I
Right.
mean, it really is a pickle for me because I got classic guys that are closer to getting in shape that will come, but my bodybuilders don't want to come because they're going to be too heavy and too off season. So I don't have a guest poser in November, a month after the Olympia, because most of the guys are off their diets and they don't want to pose a month after the Olympia. So I got to look towards the classic physique guest poser.
Well, that said, Shawn, we'll see how that progresses throughout the rest of the year. And in the future, hopefully, these are things, again, for the betterment of the Federation, for the future of the Federation and the bodybuilders themselves, because things are going in a good direction monetarily, opportunity-wise. Again, the internet has opened up, Instagram in particular has opened up social media avenues for people, athletes to make more money. So all that's good and all that's positive. Hopefully we can get the rest of this stuff to go in the same direction. So on a final note, big props to Sydney Gillen, 8-time Olympia champ, called it a day last year on the Olympia stage.
Yes.
She'll go down as the greatest of all time in her chosen field of pro figure. But she's also been added in, I understand, in the International Sports Hall of Fame for this year. Dr. Goldman's business that he put together many, many years ago. It's got some of the greatest athletes of all time, and she is definitely worthy of consideration. So congratulations to her. And Shawn, that's going to wrap it up because we got to get on a plane. This week we'll be in Dubai. Hopefully we can do some reporting from there, maybe give some updates and even some live. That would be kind of cool. So we'll be on Dubai time, but we'll try to reach out to everybody. For Sugar Shawn Ray, I'm Bob Chick. We're out of here.